हेलो बच्चों, बहुत सारे कल कमेंट्स में आई हैव सीन दैट देयर आर फ्यू कमेंट्स दैट मैम प्लीज इंक्रीज योर वॉइस. In the beginning itself I had said that I am down with cold and some flu, cold and cough. So, and I said that please take care of yourself as well. Do bear with me for a little low voice and little low energy for a few days because I am on the medications. Still I am committed to bring for you everyday newspaper analysis because you see, स्टूडेंट एक बार पढ़ना भूल जाता है, लेकिन टीचर एक एक टीचर जो होता है ना, वो कभी भी उसका ऐसा एक दिन नहीं जाता कि जो पढ़ता ना हो. ठीक है. सो यू शुड टेक इंस्पिरेशन फ्रॉम योर टीचर्स, फ्रॉम योर मेंटर्स, दैट if they can go extra mile, if they cannot skip reading for you, why you should skip reading for yourself? Because success is ultimately yours. Okay, we just can help you. So you have to keep on doing your part. That is a consistent and reading and diligent effort every day, consistently and diligently. So never ever skip reading newspaper. I ease your efforts by discussing some of the articles every day from the newspaper which are important. I look at different dimensions. I give you some PYQs to make you feel the significance of that particular article, and also I give you some practice questions as well, so that you can foresee what kind of questions can be asked from that particular article. So with the same approach, let's begin our day. I welcome you all to the daily newspaper analysis brought by Tathastu-ICS by me, Ruchi Singh. So let's begin. Let's take our first article of the day, and that is, look at this news. India to establish international alliance to protect big cats. So just there is a talk right now about this India to establish. It has not yet been established. The headquarter will be India, but the city is still not known where the headquarter will be. If you read, it has said that it is like International Solar Alliance, whose headquarter is in Gurugram. So the same kind of international alliance will be put in place to protect big cats. Okay, as you can see, the headquarter of the International Alliance for Protecting the Big Cats has not yet been announced, but just notice that Union Environment Ministry plans to set up and coordinate an International Big Cat Alliance, IBCA, along the lines of International Solar Alliance. So this is just the this significant about this article. There has not yet been mentioned anything extra for this, though if you read this article, so far 16 countries have given their written consent to be part of IBCA. So 16 countries. It has not yet come into formulation stage, but you should know that this kind of initiative is in the talks, and what are the kind of projected advantages. The advantages of membership and accompanying document noted are a central common repository for technical know-how and a corpus of funds. So these will be the two benefits, but let's not go into detail of this information, because this information, this particular initiative is still in formulation stage. Just know that such kind of initiative is in formulation stage. That's all. Okay, and that is why we do not dwell much into this article. The article that is to be read in detail is on editorial page. Look at this article before we take that one in detail. Decoding the script, Genome India project. This we have already done in detail, and as a reminder which I give you every day, again the same reminder I am giving you is that if you read your newspaper consistently, your efforts will start reducing for reading newspaper, because lot of the news piece, lot of the articles will be in continuation or exact repetition of whatever you have already covered. So let me remind you, this article decoding the script, it is about Genome India project. We have dealt with Genome India project in very much detailed manner. We have understood what is Genome India project, what will be the benefits, and we had seen a question based on this particular topic in very much detail in our previous sessions. Please go back and watch those previous sessions and complete your kind of complete understanding of 1 month newspaper, and your next month, that is March and April, will become an easy task for you. Okay, so that is why we are skipping this article for today, that is decoding the script. It is about Genome India project, because we have already dealt with it. All right, and then the article which is needed to be read by us is change and continuity in India's Palestine policy. So what always I underline whenever I take any bilateral relation issue or any India vis-a-vis any other country bilateral relationship, I always say start with historical background and then look at what are the strategic ties or the strategic partnership that has happened between the two countries. What is the recent context because of which that particular bilateral issue is in the discussion or is in the news. And then third thing you see is any defense ties, any defense initiative that has been started between the two, or if it is about Arab countries, is there any oil, energy, gas kind of exchange, any initiative on that part, all these things. And then a conclusion, any conflict in the bilateral relation between India and vis-a-vis that particular country, and then what are the historical, as we see the very first stage, and then any initiatives or any steps that is needed to be taken between the two countries for bettering or making the relationship much better. Okay, so these are few of the dimensions that you need to think while you take up any bilateral issue or any bilateral kind of exchange between India vis-a-vis any other country. So let's see here, India-Palestine policy is there. This article is about historical background of India-Palestine thing, and how, when and where India has taken a stand for Palestine issue, what is the current problems, or what is the evolution in the bilateral relation between the two countries, and then India's interest in the Palestine region. Let's deconstruct this article and understand what is the context, as I say, and then we'll see some key aspects of the relationship. The context is that India's historical policy towards Palestine has been evolving, but a permanent fix to the Palestine question should not be lost sight of, should not lose the sight of. So this is the context in which the article is, hovering around. The article has been discussed around. What are the key aspects of India-Palestine relations? What are the key aspects? Historical support for Palestine. India has given historical support for Palestine. For example, in 1947, India became the first non-Arab state. So India was the first non-Arab state to recognize Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, as the sole and legitimate representative of the Palestine people. So you imagine the gravity of the relationship, or imagine the relationship India holds with that of Palestine, and how much India is important for Palestine. So India is the first non-Arab country to give support of PLO. And then recognition of state of Palestine in 1988, 1974 first milestone, second milestone 1988. India was among the first countries to officially recognize the state of Palestine. Abhi it was about PLO, then in the next stage it is about state of Palestine. This recognition affirmed India's commitment to Palestine cause and their right to self-determination. So what are the key terms? Right to self-determination, PLO, and then state of Palestine. First milestone in 1974 year, second milestone in 1988. Now we are talking about state of Palestine. All right, from PLO to Palestine, state of Palestine. Then representation in Palestine. India opened its representative office in the state of Palestine in Gaza in 1996. Later, this office was shifted to Ramallah. Unlike in Israel, India does not have an embassy in Palestine. So India do not have any embassy in Palestine yet, which we have in Israel already, but we have opened a representative office. So this is one step in the making that India has recognized Palestine as a state. All right, so this is the first step. The proper setup of embassy means the Palestine is a proper state. Okay. International support. India has consistently supported Palestine in international forums. India's backing for Palestine's bid for the non-member state status in United Nations General Assembly in 2012 further exemplifies its unwavering support. So India has always supported Palestine's causes, okay, be it at the United Nations General Assembly, be it recognizing first as a PLO and then state of Palestine. Okay, so we have seen financial support, we have seen recognition of state, historical support also have seen. Now what about financial assistance? Does India provide any financial assistance to Palestine? Let's see that, because that's very important for state in these conditions. Financial assistance is one of the biggest bilateral push for the two countries. So India provides financial aid and assistance to Palestine. In 2016, India pledged $1.25 million to the United Nations Relief Agency for Palestine refugees, demonstrating its commitment to alleviating humanitarian challenge in the region. So now we did see about the financial assistance. Now next is trade relations. What is the trade volume between the two countries? So if you look at trade relations, look at this. Key exports. Yeah, key exports from India to Palestine include marble, granite. What are the key exports? Exports from India to Palestine, okay? Marble, granite, rice and pharmaceuticals. While Palestine exports mainly consist of olive oil and dates. So Palestine sends us olive oil and dates, while we send Palestine marble, granite, rice and pharmaceuticals product, okay? And then if we have seen the trade relations, we have seen the financial relations, we have seen the historical support of India. Let's look at cultural exchange. Is there any kind of cultural exchange as well? When you study bilateral relations between the two countries, you study the relation in these various dimensions. So a cultural exchange. Indian arts and culture, especially Indian movies, enjoy popularity in Palestine. Various cultural activities, film screening and exhibitions have been organized to foster cultural exchanges. Development projects. Now we have to look at development projects as well. What are these? They're India, Brazil, South Africa, IPSA. You need to note down about IPSA. Fund has financed several projects in Palestine promoting infrastructure, healthcare and capacity building. So where are the areas where we provide assistance in terms of development projects? Infrastructure, healthcare and capacity building. So this is the various dimensions that is needed to be looked. Now also look at this dimension, that India advocates for the peace in Israel-Palestine issue, because what is the India's stance when it comes to Israel-Palestine issue? It is centered on the advocating for a peaceful resolution. It consistently calls for de-escalation and dialogue during times of conflict. So India has always vouched for the peace in Israel-Palestine conflict, and it has called for de-escalation and dialogue during times of conflict. So dialogue makes a lot of conflicts get resolved. Alright, so India vouches for dialogue between the two countries. Independent foreign policy. India's position in Israel and Palestine is independent and shaped by its own views and interests, not determined by external influences. So India has independent relations, be it with Israel, be it with Palestine. Palestine's relations with India does not impact India's relationship with Israel, and likewise Israel's relation with India does not impact India's outreach or India's relations with Palestine. It is independent foreign policy. Alright, next, maintaining historical support. If you look at this, while India has diversified its foreign policy and forged closer ties with Israel, it maintains historical support for Palestine cause as well, demonstrating a nuanced approach to the conflict. Okay, so this is a historical support India has always provided for. Implication of Israel-Palestine conflict in India. So there has been quite volatile situation between India and between Israel and Palestine. So in this scenario, the conflict between Israel and Palestine, how it does impact India, that is another important dimension that you need to look at. And lastly, I'll give you a question which you need to see if you can solve. So defense deals with Israel, energy security, impact on India, Middle East, Europe, economic corridor. So IMEEE, IMEEC, that is a very significant part that you need to look at. IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, IMEC. Alright, defense deals with Israel. India has a significant defense relationship with Israel, with defense procurement and technology cooperation. So with Israel, we have very good defense relations with Israel. The conflict may impact this relationship as Israel may focus more on its security needs during the conflict. So our defense interest है, defense ties है with Israel, that might get impacted in Israel-Palestine conflict scenario. Energy security, India is dependent on oil imports from Middle East, and any escalation in the region could affect energy prices. So energy prices is another concern, and subsequently India's economy. So any impact on oil imports will impact on the energy prices, because energy prices is very much directly related to the impact on the economy. So indirectly or directly, Indian economy will be hit hard. Impact on India, Maldives, East Europe economic corridor, how that will be impacted due to Israel-Palestine conflict. The conflict has the potential to affect the stability of Middle East, a region of strategic importance to India. India recently signed IMAC as an ambitious infrastructure project aimed at connecting India to that of Middle East and Europe. So this corridor will connect India with Middle East and the Europe, all right, through various transportation modes including shipping and railway networks. So we had, in our previous discussion, we had seen what is IMAC and what are the links through which India is connected with Middle East to Europe, and we did see some of this IMAC corridor is railway link and some of this is shipping. So it is passing through the railway network, and is also passing through sea lanes. Okay, so the IMAC corridor is combination of both the two networks. We have seen the map as well, IMAC. So we are now going to repeat it again. You have to go back to the session and watch it. The PYQ with some of the MCQs also I took, and I showed a map also where I had shown the map of the region IMAC corridor, entire IMAC corridor starting from the Mumbai, India to Middle East to the Europe. So you have to go and look at that. Instability in the region can create security challenge and affect the smooth cooperation of the IMAC. So you have to talk up if it comes to implication of Israel-Palestine on Israel-Palestine crisis on India. You have to talk about defense deals, you have to talk about energy, you have to talk about impact on the IMEC corridor, all right, which is helping India to connect with Middle East and then to the Europe. All right, so this is the dimension you need to look at. Now, way forward, what could be the way forward if there are challenges, if there are issues? Whenever you talk about bilateral relations or multilateral relations or international relations, you always give a certain, you always prepare way forward with respect to those two countries. So if we see here, what are the way forward with respect to Israel-Palestine conflict vis-a-vis India, or India versus India and Palestine relation? A prolonged war in Gaza would also enhance the risk of wider conflict in the region, involving Iran, Israel and America, who are all India's partners. So Israel-Palestine conflict is not just creating nuisance for India's relationship with Palestine or with Israel, is also creating nuisance with Israel, America as well as Iran. Not just Israel and Palestine, because a prolonged war in Gaza is going on, because of which a wider conflict in the region may arise, and this might impact India's relationship with Iran, Israel and America all. An immediate end to the war, restoration of the order. So what all is needed to be done? Immediate end to the war, restoration of order and stability in the West Asia, and permanent fix to Palestine question are as much in India's interest as anybody else in the West Asia. This should be the guide core of India's Act West policy. So India's Act West policy is there, and what should be the way ahead? What should be the approach? The approach is for immediate end to the war, restoration of the order and stability in the West Asia, and a permanent fix to Palestine question. So three things are there in offering which needs to be looked at for a better India vis-a-vis other countries' ties, and for India's Act West policy as well. So if I say what could be the question that might come, think about probable question. You might discuss that how Israel-Palestine conflict can impact IMC with respect to India. One question can be this, and the question can be this: Israel-Palestine conflict is not only causing disruption in the bilateral relation between India and Israel, also between India and Palestine, but it is causing a wider disruption in the relationship on the world level itself. And then here you can talk about America and Iran as well entire West Asia, etc. So this two types of question, or there might be another many kind of question can be formed from this area, and try to think and try to attempt the question which I have mentioned. Try to think if you can solve by discussion of this content, and you can solve because the content, the fodder which I have provided is enough to discuss or to deal with any kind of question which can be asked between India and Palestine bilateral relations, for India and Palestine bilateral relations. All right. The next article that you needed to take in reference is, you will see this vulnerable to criticism. There is an article vulnerable to criticism on the editorial page itself. This is about India's low credibility. I have mentioned multiple times, I have discussed enforcement directorates, all the judgments around enforcement directorates, ED versus CBI versus NIA, ED's jurisdiction, what is ED, what is the structure of the ED, what is the roles and responsibilities of ED, everything we had discussed. We had discussed the constitutional provisions as well, and we had discussed judgments as well surrounding ED and Tamil Nadu governments vis-a-vis versus the ED and the ED summoning of those 10 district collectors of Tamil Nadu, and why Tamil Nadu state government took a filed a petition against ED for summoning these 10 district collectors, and what are the Supreme Court stance. We have dealt with it in very much detail. You can go back and watch the earlier session, and I already said that once you cover certain article in detail, those articles time and again come with the same content, so you can save your time and skip. Today's newspaper you can finish in not more than 35 minutes. That's my challenge. All right, if you are reading newspaper consistently, that's how you start saving times in newspaper. All right, so we are going to skip this. We have covered it in very much detail. Please go back and watch the sessions of DNA and RC at the Tathastu channel, and you can complete entire month newspaper properly. That was of February, taken consistently. Let's go to the article that we need to take in consideration in detail. Is this one, India's burgeoning death penalty crisis. Here we'll be talking about capital punishment. Okay, in this article it has talked about the first, if you see first line, with 561 prisoners on death row at the end of 2023, India's death row population has continued to rise to reach its highest ever numbers in 2004. So the people who are awaiting or who are in the death row chain, the number is increasing. 561 prisoners on the death row are awaiting, and the number is of 2023. So the issue of capital punishment needs to be taken into account. This article is about that. So let's deconstruct the article through certain extra reading. First, understand what is the context. The context, as we read in the very first paragraph, is that death penalty sentencing reform initiated by the Supreme Court of India has failed to percolate to trial courts. So Supreme Court had started certain reforms in death penalty, but that failed to percolate to trial courts. The trial till the percolation मतलब छन के जो चीजें नीचे जाती हैं ना, जैसे जब जड़ से पानी जब स्टेम से पानी जड़ से होता है वो पानी स्टेम, जब रूट से पानी ट्री में स्टेम तक जाता है, उसको बोलते हैं पर्कुलेट करना. या अगर आप बोलो कि यस, पर्कुलेशन जस्ट मीन पानी जब नीचे धीरे धीरे जाता है अंडरग्राउंड, ठीक है, तो उसको पर्कुलेशन बोलते हैं, छन के नीचे जाना. तो कह रहा है कि डेथ पेनाल्टी, द सुप्रीम कोर्ट स्टार्टेड अ रिफॉर्म इन डेथ पेनाल्टी issue a case, but it has not got percolated to the lower courts, that is trial courts. This is the context. Now certain data which has been mentioned in the article. With 561 prisoners on death row at the end of 2023, India's death row population has continued to rise to reach its highest ever numbers in 2004. Highest number was in 2004. Currently it is 561 in 2023. In an unprecedented trend, the Supreme Court of India acquitted nearly 50% of the death row prisoners in the case it heard in 2023. So 50% of the death row prisoners have been acquitted in 2023 by Supreme Court. The development must be understood alongside the court initiative to convene a constitution bench to reform death penalty sentencing. Okay, there's a need to convene a constitution bench to reform death penalty sentencing. Though Supreme Court has started reform measures, but the article is trying to pitch for a constitutional bench, all right, to bring up reforms for penalty, death penalty sentencing. Next thing, capital punishment or death penalty. So let's read about what is a bit about capital punishment and death penalty. It is an execution of an offender sentenced to death by hanging after conviction. So what is death penalty? It is execution of an offender sentenced. So offender has been sentenced to death by hanging after conviction by a court of law of a criminal offence. Alright. So this is how death penalty is awarded. According to section 302 of IPC 1860, an individual who commits murder shall be given the death penalty. So under what section of IPC? 302 section of IPC 1860, death penalty is awarded. All right. So what are the issues that is needed to be looked at? What are the issues? Why we are talking about reforms in death penalty? The acquittals of death row prisoners by Supreme Court deserve particular attention. Despite comprising a smaller proportion of death cases at the court in previous year, these decisions underscore systemic failures by police, prosecution and trial courts. So there is a systemic failure where police, prosecution, trial courts. Acquittals have been outcomes of fabricated evidence, manipulated false information reports, the possibility of tempered forensic evidence and dubious recoveries of incriminating evidences by the police. So you see, there are faults because of which many people who have not committed these crimes are put to conviction, are convicted of the murder charges, and they are put to capital punishment. And that is what is saying, there is a systemic failure by police, by prosecution, trial courts. Why? Because the evidences are fabricated, the first information reports are manipulated, they are not properly formed. There is a possibility of tempered forensic evidence which are provided in the courts are tempered most of the time. There are dubious recoveries of the incriminating evidence. Whatever incriminating evidences are provided, they are dubious, they do not have much base into it, they do not have much truth into it. So that is what are the systemic issues, systemic failures, because of which the death penalty cases needs to be a reform, needs to be looked at. Now the court has confirmed itself, to case specific reprimands in acquittal decisions without acknowledging systemic problems with which the death penalty is being administered. Okay. Then when it comes to sentencing, the court has been more willing to recognize systemic concerns plaguing the death penalty. So court again recognizes systemic concerns, and that is why plaguing the death penalty, that's also an issue that has to be looked at. Crimes punishable under capital punishments are. So what are the crimes that are punished under capital punishment? Exacerbated murder, offences performing in death, disloyalty, spying, terrorism related crimes resulting in death, and military offences not resulting in death. All right. So exacerbated murder, offences performing in death, disloyalty, spying, terrorism related to crimes resulting in death, and military offences even though not resulting in death. All right. So these are the cases where crimes under which capital punishment can be awarded. So what next that you need to look at is the constitutionality of capital punishment. What are the bases of capital punishment? If you look at Dina versus Union of India, the court held that section 354(5) of Indian Penal Code prescribed hanging as mode of execution as fair, just and reasonable procedure within the meaning of Article 21, and hence is constitutional. So what is the constitution of death penalty? Article 21 and section 354 clause 5 of Indian Penal Code. All right. Then in Bachchan Singh versus State of Punjab, Supreme Court upheld the constitutional validity of death sentence and laid down that death penalty must be surmounted only in rarest of the rare cases. All right. So it is for rarest of the rare cases, which has been mentioned in Bachchan Singh versus State of Punjab. Machi Singh versus State of Punjab. These judgments you have to remember when it comes to capital punishment. All right. Do note down. Case provided exception to the rarest of the rare rule, and death penalty can be invoked when, how death penalty can be invoked? When murder is committed in extremely brutal manner so as to arouse extreme indignation of community, and murder is committed by a motive which shows total depravity and meanness. All right, so these are the three judgments with respect to capital punishment, out of which you can derive the constitutionality of capital punishment, that you need to remember and you can mention in answers. So in paper 2 they might ask what are the constitutionality of capital punishment, and then justify your answer with Supreme Court, with various Supreme Court judgments in this regard. So this could be a question. And then protection under the Constitution, Article 72. What are the articles in Constitution per se? Article 72, Article 161, Article 21, Article 133, 134. So let's say there is an MCQ question, and they ask which of the following articles are related to constitutionality of capital punishment or death penalty. Okay, so these articles, Article 72, Article 161, Article 121, Article 31, and let's say any random article 132 is mentioned, 42 is mentioned, 48 mentioned. So you have to find out which are the articles which are related with the constitutionality of death penalty. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4 articles we can remember. Okay, and read. Please read from your bare act, whichever you are referring. Way forward, if you have, again always you should remember any way forward solutions, conclusions for topics like these. So what is the way forward? However, the growing number of acquittals by Supreme Court in penalty cases creates an urgency to recognize the very high chance of error in our criminal system. So, however, the growing number of acquittals by the Supreme Court in penalty cases creates an urgency to recognize. So, because Supreme Court is acquitting lot of people of death penalty, that means Supreme Court recognizes that there was error made while convicting these people. All right, that is why now we have to understand and recognize that there are high chance of error in criminal system. Repeated instances of acquittals from death row must force us to reconsider the risk we are taking in a system such as ours. So because of these risks, because of these errors made, lot of people who have not even committed the crime are awaiting for justice in the system, and the number is rising and rising every year. That is why there is a need to be relooked at death penalty cases, capital punishment in the country, and there has to be reforms which has though been initiated by Supreme Court, but it has not percolated down to the lowest level, that is trial courts. And that is why the article in the article, the author, the writers are vouching for some constitutional bench which should look at the cases of death penalty, all right, or capital punishment. So this is the dimensions which you need to look at when you read about capital punishments, and questions can be of any time. Let's say, what is the constitutional provisions related to death penalty or capital punishment? Is there any reform needed for capital punishment in the country? So this could be a question, and there can be many types of questions asked from this area. I have tried to discuss all the dimensions related to capital punishments by looking at the article. I have taken up the crux from there, the article itself, and tried to put in different dimensions for you to make it easy and understandable. This is it for today's newspaper that you need to read and understand. Okay, so this is it for the Hindu newspaper analysis. Please keep reading, try to solve questions. Please keep looking at PYQs and your main syllabus, very important. Connect your articles, whatever you read in the newspaper, with your syllabus so that you understand how questions can be framed from the readings you're doing from your newspaper. All the best, keep reading. I'll see you in another session. Tathastu.